All right, welcome everybody to Wednesday, September 20th, meeting of Kubernetes SIG service catalog. I think we just have one agenda item today. I'll go ahead and kick it off because it's my agenda item. Would someone like to share their screen and show the agenda doc?
Hold on, let me give it a shot. All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so why don't we go and take a look at that thing. I made one change to this yesterday, or one change to this today, which is that the fields that were called OSB, service name, OSB plan name, I changed to be external service name and external plan name because that will align better with the external name fields in service class spec and service plan spec. I did have a chance to talk to Microsoft about this, and they are okay with this proposal. They have an additional ask, which is added that they want to do after this is implemented. And that additional ask, which I'll create an issue for, is to be able to use, instead of the external service name and plan name, use the external IDs as opposed to the Kubernetes names. Have an alternate selection mode where you say the external ID. And the reason that they want that is because, and I think this is actually a very sensible reason, they want to be able to write Helm charts or templates or just YAML resources that are proof against name changes. So the scenario that they want to prevent is they write a chart that references the service name Kent's Incredible Service. They publish that chart, and then they have then the team that operates the broker is like, oops, we should have called it Kent's Stupendous Service, and now their chart doesn't work. So this does not change anything about this proposal. It's just an alternate mode that they want for addressing these things. And I think it would be easy to implement as a purely additive thing. So with that in mind, that's a +1 from Microsoft. I wonder, does anybody else have any questions, comments about this before we decide that it's a consensus?
Doug has a hand.
Yeah, so do you see referencing by ID being an additive field, or should we bite the bullet now and say external service name or ID kind of a thing on the current field?
I see it being two more fields, and basically if you set them both, if you set both sets of fields, it's a validation error. If you set like you can set one or the other.
Okay. Okay, sounds fair. Any other questions, comments? Raise your hand if you have one. Go ahead, Relay.
Do we external service name, should that be external service class name and external service plan name for consistency's sake?
I could do those. I think that would be fine. I have no objection to that.
All right. Matthew.
Is there going to be an expectation that those external names are kept up to date in the service instance spec?
Right now, there's nothing in the proposal that says we're going to keep them up to date for a name change.
Okay.
I think it would be possible to do in the future. I I don't see it as a requirement now.
Okay, so since my hand's up, so just to be perfectly clear then, there could be a difference between what's in the spec versus reality. And if the user wants to see not what the name was when they requested it, but what the name is as it currently stands, they need to follow those refs in there to the actual service class or plan and look at that name in there, right?
Right now, yeah.
Okay, cool. Vile.
I will also, since I'm making these changes right now, I'm also going to go ahead and document them here a little bit more about the behavior, which is that these were jotted down at the time of creation and or update or whatever. And then I will say, I will also say that those two pieces below the refs are the ones who want to go. Refs, I will capitalize for Paul's enjoyment.
Okay. I just had a thought about this, and it got away from me. It'll come back to me if it's important, or maybe not.
Okay. Well, while Paul is digging through his brain, any other questions, comments? Okay. So
now, have you guys been able to review this yet at Atlassian?
So I took a quick look. I think that it looks fine. We will probably need IDs as well. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, with the extension of IDs, it looks fine.
Okay.
Okay, so let me ask the grand question. Is there any objection to heading down this path for right now? All right. And Vile is working on it, I believe. So I'm going to mark that down in the document. Okay. That's it for the agenda technically. Now, Paul, I noticed that you had a comment on, I can't remember who opened up the issue about service plan names. I was wondering whether you wanted to talk about that.
Well, I want to talk actually before that about the CLI experience. So now, those of you that have been on the call for a while, that have been attending these calls for a while, may remember that we talked about server-originated kubectl get columns. And what I mean by that is that currently in kubectl, the columns that are shown when you do like kubectl get, they are compiled into kubectl. However, in 1.7, there was a feature added to kubectl where the OpenAPI spec can indicate which columns kubectl should show and what they should be named. Main Key at Google has a pull request open for this, but there are some questions lingering related to the fact that you currently have to host the OpenAPI for the core API 2. Anyway, it looks like it is possible for us to define, without adding code to kubectl, a way to show the columns. In my copious spare time, I'm hoping in the next 24 to 48 hours, at latest the weekend, to spend some time fiddling with this branch and seeing if we can make a really nice kubectl get experience, which I think is something that would be very valuable if we were able to do. So that's a thing. Let me see if I can find the pull request really quick, and we can just stick a link to that in there if folks would like to play around with it. Okay, it is pull request 1208. So that link is in there now. And that's all the information I had to relay about that. If anybody else is interested in playing around with that, feel free. and report back and let us know what you find. Any questions about that before we move on?
Looks like no. Go for it.
Okay, so I think what you're referring to, Doug, is Sam Paget had opened an issue about being able to, I think the issue is called, like, know the order that the broker specified the plan names in. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, that's right.
I gotcha.
Noticed in the spec that the plans is an array, so the broker presumably can specify an order, and we were trying to display the plans in the order from the broker, but when the plans were split out of the service class resource, there's no longer an array, so we've lost the order.
Yeah. So I don't have an opinion on whether they're ordered or not. Doug, it sounds like your reading of the spec is that they're not ordered.
Yeah, I don't think they're. I think it's just a JSON array. That's just the mechanism they use to return them. I don't think we're supposed to infer any ordering, and especially not a quote preferred list order. Meaning, there's no the first one is not something users should use over the last one.
Right.
People should pick them based upon the QoS properties, right? The cost and stuff like that. Sam, you're up next.
Yeah, I by preferred order, I didn't mean that the first one in the list is the one that brokers want you to pick. I just meant that this is like a display order. So maybe preferred order was a poor choice of words. But, you know, I don't know that the spec says that. I don't know the spec makes a statement about that at all. But since we were getting them back as an array, we were trying to keep the order.
Right. Okay. Vile, you're up. Oh, yeah, you're next, Vile. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think we might want to consider how we want to deal with this from the OSP side as well. It reminds me a little bit of the issue of how do we deal with parameter ordering in the schemas, and it might be if there's a way to go ahead and specify that, or at least tighten the wording to go and say yes, it should be ordered, or no, it shouldn't be, and then come back and then. I think we are going to have to stash something away on the service, on the broker that keeps track of the ordering. I don't think we can do it in the service classes. I think that's in the broker.
Yeah, so I'm up next. So I'd be a little concerned. I'm not dead set against it because I haven't done enough thinking about it. But my initial gut reaction is it's a little concerning that we might actually make the order matter. Because then if you do a relist, if things appear in a different order than they did before, but everything else is the same, does that mean the platform has to reflect that new order, and what's the significance of that? I'd almost prefer to just say this is a platform choice. They're given display names. It seems perfectly reasonable to me. And maybe at most the spec give a recommendation that says, hey, you may want to alphabetize them. But otherwise, I don't think the spec necessarily has to provide an order, because the minute you do, people are going to try to infer things into it that we probably didn't intend. The exact same way that not saying anything, Sam inferred an ordering, right? It's a very slippery slope. So anyway, that's my initial comment on it. Vile, you're up.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with basically what you're saying. I think it would be useful just to go ahead and at the OSP level either change the wording to say this is not ordered, because it seems like we can read it differently. So
yeah, I could take an AI to do that. What do people think about getting some clarity? Paul, your hand's up.
I think getting clarity would be good. I think that we can assume that they're unordered for now. One option that we have to ensure that people do not read into things is there is a hook in the registry infrastructure that allows us to canonicalize an object before it gets persisted, which gives you a chance to do things like sort an array, that kind of thing. So we can ensure that they're always persisted in in alphabetized order or reverse alphabetized, whatever. It's an option that's on the table.
Okay. Sam, you're up.
Sure. So I definitely agree with getting some clarity on this in the OSB working group. To me, like from a user experience perspective, like I don't see why we would want to prevent workers from saying this is the order we'd like them displayed. Like it's sort of like the parameter ordering in a form, right? Where a certain order might make sense, and only the broker knows that. So, but regardless, yeah, I think it needs to be clarified in the spec. So like whatever the decision is upstream would form what we do.
Okay.
I'd be very curious to know what Cloud Foundry does with this.
I don't know offhand, so I'd have to ask. Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments on this?
So I do think that one thing I have been thinking about is, if possible, I think it would be good to have a list of plans. And I know that I previously said I didn't think that we should do this, but I changed my mind. So I think it would be cool to have a list of plans on the service class, at least the plan names, and maybe another field that's like references to the actual, to the actual service plans. I think it would be good to be able to display these in kubectl. I was concerned about them getting out of sync. I think that it's not a big concern anymore since you'll be reconciling the service class and plans at the same time. I wonder what people think about that.
Okay, Bilal, your hands up.
Actually, sorry, no, he answered my question.
Okay. Hold on a second. Just taking some notes here. Any comments, questions for Paul on that? Do people actually want to do it? Do the people not care? I'm curious. Okay, Null doesn't.
Me neither, Null.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about like this idea of duplication, but on the other hand, I don't have any strong arguments against it. It's just that like in general, duplication seems a bit odd.
I have the same concerns.
So my hands up.
Back and forth on it.
So Paul, would it be horrible if for beta we left it out and then got feedback on the user experience to know whether we should add it later? Since adding it obviously is additive, it's not going to break the schema. But adding it now and then realizing we don't need it later would be a bad change. So I'm wondering whether we should live with it for now and then possibly revisit after beta.
I think that is a perfectly reasonable approach.
Any thoughts on that? Oh, Bilal likes to revisit. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, is there any objection to revisiting after beta, but keeping it the way it is for now? Okay.
All right.
Any other topics for today?
Only that we're about, let's see, today is the 20th, right? Mm-hmm. Very, very close to when we need to be at like a feature complete state. And I am fairly confident that we're going to be able to hit that. So I think actually we're probably at the point where the design stuff is now officially done. I wonder if people are interested in having like a short Scrum type meeting, maybe in this time slot for 10 or 20 minutes so that we can be checking, so that we can all be basically in touch with one another. And if someone needs help, raise your hand, that kind of thing.
you're basically suggesting we keep this daily meeting, but it can be very, very short if no one has any topics.
Correct. Yeah.
Any comments on that? I personally like the idea. I like having a standing meeting, even if it gets canceled at the last minute, personally.
Okay. Well, sounds like we'll do that for now, and I will cancel the design meetings, and I'll make a short one that's a Scrum that runs for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we can change that as needed.
So are you gonna do it on Friday as well, or are we still gonna skip Fridays?
No Friday.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Any other topics? Last chance. All right. We are done.
All right. Thanks everybody for all the time and effort this has taken so far. I think we're gonna have a really good beta once this is all done. So keep it up. See you all on the internet.